Alright, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you tonight with a fight review. We're going to Monterrey, Mexico for this one. For Lux Fight League number 15, we're going to the main event Strawweight Championship, inaugural Strawweight Championship, I should say, between Saray Orozco coming in at 6-4 and Tani Torres coming in at 4-0 undefeated. Now this fight was not only for the inaugural Strawweight Championship, this was also the Strawweight tournament final that Lux started, late last year, early this year. Looking at the bracket here, Orozco had to get past Yajairo Romo and Alejandro Orozco to make it to the final, whereas Tani Torres had to defeat Laura Zamora and then Yaneth Vidal to make it into the finals. So this was a long way getting here, and I'll tell you what, this fight really lived up to, the tournament, the high stakes of both the tournament final and, inaugural championship. So let's get down into it. So first round had a strong start by Orozco, but then she started to have a hard time with the range once Torres, started getting her counter punching going. There was a strong low kick game by Orozco, and then a late takedown attempt by Saray was stuffed by Torres, who ended up making her pay for it. Now, second round, this was a very strong round for Saray Orozco. She found her groove, and she started mixing her kicks in. And at one point, Torres circled into a high kick by Orozco. And I'm telling you what, this was a big high kick that just straight up stunned her. And then Orozco followed up with a couple punches that, just dropped Torres to the ground. But you got to give amazing credit to Tani Torres here. She survived. She made her way from the middle of the cage to the fence with Orozco, pounding on her the whole way. And then Torres was able to make it to her feet. And it was just like a powerful display of both, heart and willpower. And then after that, they both really started going for it, and really good clinch work from both for the remainder of the round. Now, I had this one a 10-9 Orozco, but you could have easily seen it 10-8 because you could argue that the fight could have been stopped. So third round, Torres came back out with the heat. She rocked Orozco early with a big right hand and then followed up with some clinch knees. Orozco, on the other hand, she kept the low kicks going, and you could see that Torres's movement was starting to slow, but she still kept doing good work with her counter punching. And if you've watched Torres's past fights, she cuts a lot of angles off of her counters, but her movement was really slowed by those low kicks, but she still kept up the counter punching. And honestly, by the end of this third round, both fighters were absolutely busted up. There was no blood in the previous fight, so the mat was clean, but by the end of the third round, there was blood splatter everywhere. So we get into the championship round. So fourth round was uneventful for most of the first half with a lot of feinting. Orozco started to step it up, but then Torres, she really came alive with some big combos and some clinch work, and then Orozco went for another takedown that got stuffed by Torres. And then we go into the final round, and I had it evened up going into the fifth round. I had it 2 rounds apiece. But fifth round, great back and forth round. I mean, an absolutely great back and forth round. Both fighters, had their moments. Orozco, she worked her kicks and her range punches, and Torres would come through bursting forward with flurries and clinch knees. And then I thought Orozco finished strong with some good clinch control. So went all 5 rounds. Amazing fight. We went to the judges, and the judges had it 48-46, 47-47, and 49-46 for your winner by majority decision and inaugural Lux champion Tani Torres. It was just an awesome fight. I mean, this was a strong fight of the year contender. This one is going to be hard to beat for ladies fight of the year. Okay, it had a little of everything. It was a good back and forth fight. There are some high stakes, tournament final and championship, and both fighters just left everything in the cage. So very strong Fight of the Year contender. Right now, this is at the top of the running for me personally. I thought it was a good tournament from Lux, and this was a great final. I mean, this is everything that you want from a tournament final. Just, I was blown away by how good this fight is. And I've seen some good conversation on across several different forums and social mediums talking about this fight. I'll be honest, Mexican MMA has come a long way in a short amount of time. Aside from a few good, technicians, a lot of Mexican MMA has mostly been like, flat-footed, like brawlers, and a lot of stand and bang. But overall, Mexican MMA has come a long way, and this fight is a good example of that. And then, finally, my final note here, I have that. Lux, they now have 2 stars in Orozco, but especially their new champion Torres. And the big question is, what's next for them? They got to figure it out. Now, granted, there are fighters that neither of the 2 finalists got to face in the tournament, so they still have some matchups that they could make. But I'll be honest, with the way both fighters looked in this, it's going to be hard for Lux to keep them unless they have like exclusive contracts. But both fighters could easily move on to bigger and better things, but I think they still got some good matchups for both of them in Lux Fight League down there in Mexico as well. Now for things to work on, for Torres, the new champ, she's got to check those low kicks. I mean, her lead leg, her left leg, was absolutely black and blue by the end of the fight, and it really affected her movement. She wasn't able to cut the angles that she usually does. She wasn't as light on the feet as she usually is. Now, it didn't stop her from, counter punching, but she's got to learn to check or counter those low kicks. Also, the biggest thing that hurt her in this fight, she kept circling to her left, and when you're fighting mostly right-handed fighters, strong right side fighters, it's going to come back and bite her, and it did really hard in the second round. She circled right into a right high kick. So you can't just circle in the same direction all the time. Now, this final note I have on her, this isn't so much a thing to work on. This is more of a question mark. What about her ground game? I've seen 4 of her 5 fights. The 5th fight I can't find anywhere online, and it went to a split decision. But of her 4 fights in Lux that are on UFC Fight Pass, the only time I saw her go to the ground was briefly in the second round of this fight. So we have no idea what her ground game is like. That's a big mystery, because as good as she looks on the feet, we have no idea how she does on the ground. And that's, like I said, that's not necessarily a thing to work on, because if you don't have to go to the ground and you can get it done on the feet, that's fine. It's just, for me, it's just I want to know what she looks like if she gets taken down. Now for Orozco, that right high kick for her that was so money in the second round, it was still available for her in the other rounds. She just never tried to go for it. She didn't really set it up, and she didn't try to go for it at all. But it was still available for her because Torres, was still circling to that side. I don't know why she gave up on it after only landing it 1 time. Also, gotta commit to takedowns. I mean, I think she went for 4 or 5 takedown attempts and never completed one of them. And she never really committed to any of them either, though. That's the big thing. If you're going to go for a takedown, I mean, it's okay to abandon them sometimes, but sometimes you just got to commit if you're going to go for it. So that's it for things to work on. Now, like I said, for fights to make, I have no idea. I'd like to see Torres defend her belt in Lux, but I also think that she could go on to bigger, better things like, like LFA or Invicta. She could definitely do good things internationally outside of just Mexico. For Orozco, this tournament really helped her turn her record around. She came into this tournament like with a 500 record at 4-4. She's now improved to 6-5. She can still do some good things in Lux and try to get her record balanced a little bit better. But as for actual official matchups, I'm not sure. I'd really have to look into it more. So there you have it, my thoughts on the Lux Fight League 15 main event, inaugural Strawweight Championship. Tani Torres, the new Lux champion, and Orozco, really good runner-up in that tournament. Like I said, this fight it blew my mind. I had high hopes for this fight going in, but it way surpassed that. Like I said in my weekend preview that this was the fight I was most looking forward to, and it lived up to every expectation and then even far exceeded those. So if you haven't seen this fight yet, go check it out. It's on UFC Fight Pass. If you don't have Fight Pass, I did find a link to watch it elsewhere, so I will include that in the description and a pinned comment down below. Meantime, let me know your thoughts on the fight in those comments down below. Please give the video a like, and while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to WMMA Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.